Have you ever paused to consider if reality extends, far beyond what our five senses can perceive?
It's a big question, isn't it?
It really is. Today, we're embarking on a truly fascinating deep dive. We're exploring the surprising, maybe even profound connections between ancient esoteric wisdom and cutting-edge modern physics.
Yeah, two worlds that seem poles apart at first glance.
Exactly. We've pulled together a captivating array of sources that bridge the mystical and the scientific. Our mission really is to unpack these ideas.
Ideas like higher dimensions from spiritual texts.
Right, that and concepts like quantum entanglement, which is mind-bending enough on its own. We want to see what deep insights emerge about, well, the nature of existence.
And what's really remarkable here is how these seemingly separate fields, one rooted in these ancient mystical traditions, the other in rigorous empirical science, they start to echo each other. It's quite uncanny.
Echo each other? How?
Well, it raises fundamental questions, doesn't it? About consciousness, about subtle energies perhaps, and the very fabric of the universe.
So we'll be looking at how these old ideas about unseen layers stack up against modern physics.
Exactly. Ideas about hyperspace, quantum fields, subtle energies. It's fascinating how concepts from centuries ago align with discussions happening right now.
Okay, let's begin the journey then. Let's look at how ancient wisdom traditions actually conceptualize dimensions beyond our ordinary perception. Because like you said, these aren't exactly new ideas.
Not at all. They've been around for a very long time in various forms.
Our sources take us back to figures like Helena Blavatsky. She co-founded the Theosophical Society way back in 1875.
The pivotal figure, certainly.
And her big works, Isis Unveiled. That was 1877.
Correct. And then The Secret Doctrine, 1888. Really foundational texts for this line of thought.
And these weren't just, philosophical musings. She was trying to blend ancient wisdom traditions.
From all over, yeah. To describe this multi-layered cosmos, complete with spiritual hierarchies, dimensions unseen by most people. Quite a complex picture.
So what did that picture look like, these layers?
Well, Blavatsky, in her work, proposed a system of 7 distinct planes of existence.
7 planes, okay.
Think of them as ascending levels of reality. You start with the dense physical plane we all know.
Right, the everyday world.
And then move up through higher astral, mental, and ultimately spiritual planes.
So it's not just an abstract idea. It suggests reality is much bigger than the material.
Precisely. It suggests realms where maybe different laws apply, different forms of consciousness exist, different experiences are possible. It really expands the definition of reality.
And it wasn't just about the planes themselves. I remember reading the Theosophists also believed humans have multiple bodies.
That's a key part, yes. Not just the physical body. There's the etheric body, sometimes called the energy double.
Kind of linking the physical to the astral.
Exactly. It's seen as the interface. And then even higher, more subtle bodies corresponding to those higher mental and spiritual dimensions.
Wow. A very holistic view of what it means to be human.
Definitely. And building on Blavatsky's work, you had Alice Bailey, another really prominent theosophist. She wrote extensively from the 1920s through the 40s.
Right, Bailey. What did she add to this picture?
Bailey introduced concepts like the 7 rays. She described them as these fundamental streams of divine energy.
Energy streams, like cosmic forces.
Sort of, yeah. Influencing different aspects of creation, human consciousness, almost like universal archetypes shaping reality. And she also detailed the etheric web.
The etheric web? What's that?
She saw it as this subtle, pervasive energy field surrounding the physical body. But not just surrounding it.
I mean, like connecting it.
Exactly. A crucial link connecting humans to greater spiritual dimensions, allowing higher dimensional energy to interact with the material plane for things like health, spiritual development, that sort of thing.
So when these esoteric traditions talk about higher dimensions, what are we actually talking about? Like the astral plane?
Yes, the astral plane is often seen as the first level above the physical. It's associated with emotions, thoughts, dreams, even out-of-body experiences.
Like a non-physical blueprint.
You could put it that way. And then beyond that, you have the mental and causal planes, realms of pure thought, maybe the soul's true nature, things influencing reincarnation cycles.
And even higher still.
Even higher spiritual realms, realms of pure spirit, unity, consciousness itself. It gets quite abstract, obviously.
And this wasn't just theosophy, right? Other traditions had similar ideas.
Oh, yes. If you look at Western esotericism, more broadly Hermeticism, Kabbalah, you find similar concepts of layered realities.
The Kabbalistic tree of life.
Exactly. With its 10 Sephiroth, the divine emanations, it's often interpreted as a map of creation spanning multiple dimensions, from the physical right up to the divine.
And symbols like the pentagram, the flower of life,
Hmm.
they relate to this.
They're often seen as symbolic representations of these complex, higher dimensional structures and principles. Geometric keys, in a way.
Okay, here's where it gets, for me, really mind-bending. The parallels between these, ancient esoteric views and modern physics, they're striking.
They really are. It makes you wonder if these ancient thinkers were tapping into something fundamental about reality that science is only now exploring with different tools.
Like the idea of higher planes as dimensions. That seems like a direct hit with physics, doesn't it?
It really does. You have string theory, M theory, positing extra spatial dimensions beyond our usual 3 plus time.
Right, to explain certain physical phenomena, unify forces.
Exactly.
Huh.
And centuries ago, esoteric teachings were suggesting these unseen layers, these other dimensions that influence our observable reality. It's a fascinating resonance.
What's the deeper implication there, do you think? Is it just coincidence?
Well, it suggests maybe there's a fundamental energetic architecture to the universe. Maybe intuition, deep meditation, things like that, could access insights about this structure long before we had the mathematics for it.
And this idea of frequency or vibration.
Yes. Both esoteric interpretations and aspects of modern physics emphasize energy and vibration. Theosophy suggested each plane has its own unique frequency.
Which kind of resonates with ideas in quantum physics, maybe, that different dimensions might vibrate differently.
It certainly opens up speculative avenues,
Mm.
how different realities might coexist, or how consciousness might attune to these subtle realms, like tuning a radio, perhaps.
Yeah.
It points to a universe of incredible energetic nuance.
And what about consciousness itself? This is huge in both fields, isn't it?
Absolutely. Quantum physics brings us the observer effect. We know this from the double slit experiment.
Where just looking changes the outcome. It's still baffling.
It is. But many esoteric traditions place consciousness not just as an observer, but as fundamental, as a core aspect of reality itself.
So not just influencing outcomes, but maybe even creating them.
That's the implication in many traditions, that thoughts, intentions, consciousness can directly shape the physical world, which interestingly mirrors some interpretations of quantum theory about the observer's critical role. It really challenges the idea that consciousness is just a byproduct of brain chemistry.
Okay, and the idea of everything being connected, not just poetically, but fundamentally.
Well, you have quantum non-locality, entanglement.
Right, where linked particles affect each other instantly, no matter the distance. Spooky action at a distance, as Einstein called it.
Exactly, and that resonates so strongly with esoteric beliefs about universal interconnectedness, the Hermetic principle, as above, so below.
Suggesting a hidden web connecting everything?
Precisely.
Hmm.
That separation is, at some deeper level, an illusion. Entanglement seems to offer a scientific glimpse of that kind of interconnectedness.
What about the very ground of reality? What everything is made of, ultimately?
Modern physics gives us quantum field theory, QFT, the idea that there's this pervasive field underlying all existence.
And particles are just excitations of that field.
Essentially, yes. And that parallels concepts like the Etheric Plane or prana in Vedic traditions. This idea of a subtle energy field that underlies and sustains the physical world.
Almost like the energetic canvas for reality.
That's a good way to put it, bridging the physical and potentially higher planes.
And the nature of reality itself, is it fixed, like clockwork, or more fluid?
Quantum mechanics suggests reality is probabilistic, doesn't it? Particles exist in this fuzzy superposition of states until observed.
Right, it's not deterministic in the old sense.
And that aligns surprisingly well with esoteric systems like, say, Tibetan Buddhism or certain magical traditions, which often view reality as fluid, malleable, shaped by consciousness or will.
So both perspectives seem to move away from a rigid clockwork universe.
Towards something much more dynamic, participatory, and maybe even conscious.
So if both ancient wisdom and modern physics are hinting at this deeper unity, what does that mean for a unified view? A theory of everything?
Well, the search for a unified field theory in physics continues. You have ideas like David Bohm's implicate order.
The idea that the whole universe is enfolded in every part.
Exactly, an interconnected, undivided whole. And that aligns beautifully with spiritual concepts of oneness Brahman in Advaita Vedanta, the unity emphasized in mystical Sufism.
It suggests that beneath all the apparent differences, there's a seamless wholeness.
A fundamental unity.
And you also hear about the Akashic records in these contexts. What's the parallel there?
In Theosophy, The Akashic records are seen as this kind of metaphysical library, a repository of all knowledge, all events, past, present, future.
Wow. Like a cosmic hard drive?
Sort of. And intriguingly, this concept finds echoes in theoretical physics concerning information conservation, how information might persist across space-time, maybe even encoded in higher dimensional structures. It's speculative, of course.
But the parallel is there. Information as fundamental.
Information is fundamental and potentially accessible beyond linear time.
Okay, let's zoom in now, as you mentioned earlier, on entanglement, because this is one of the absolute weirdest, most counterintuitive parts of quantum mechanics.
It truly is. For anyone listening who isn't familiar, it's this phenomenon where particles become linked.
So linked that measuring one instantly tells you something about the other, no matter how far apart they are. Miles, light years, it doesn't matter.
Instantaneously. Faster than light, it completely throws our classical notions of space, time, and locality out the window.
And you were saying this connects back to esoteric ideas.
Absolutely. That core concept, this persistent instantaneous connection, this non-locality, it deeply aligns with the esoteric belief that separation is ultimately an illusion.
That fundamental interconnectedness again.
Yes, like as above, so below. Entanglement provides a kind of, well, scientific validation for that ancient intuition about a unified reality.
Does this make things like telepathy seem less, out there? Could there be a mechanism?
Well, the non-local behavior of entanglement certainly echoes beliefs in phenomena like telepathy or distant healing or shared consciousness. If information or influence can seemingly bypass space,
Then maybe consciousness or spiritual energy could too?
that's the line of reasoning.
Mm.
That these phenomena might operate in a non-local way, similar perhaps to how entangled particles behave, transcending physical boundaries.
Yeah.
It's speculative, but the parallel is intriguing.
And what about the Akashic Records connection? How does entanglement fit there?
Entanglement implies information is shared instantaneously between particles, right?
Hmm.
As if they're nodes in a single information system.
Okay.
This mirrors the concept of the Akashic records as a universal information field. It suggests a non-physical level where information might be instantly available, reflecting this underlying unseen unity.
It really points towards a profound unity, maybe even a unity of consciousness.
It does seem to imply that. Entangled particles act as parts of a single system, not independent things. And this resonates so powerfully with mystical traditions speaking of a universal consciousness or Brahman, where all distinctions are ultimately seen as illusory.
And going back to the theosophical model, the etheric plane, could that play a role here?
It's an interesting interpretive possibility. If the etheric plane is this subtle energy layer connecting the physical to higher realms,
Did it be the medium for entanglement?
perhaps. Or maybe entanglement itself interacts with or is mediated by these subtle spiritual dimensions that are invisible to our current instruments. The shared wave function describing entangled particles might exist or interact within these higher vibrational dimensions where our normal ideas of boundaries just don't apply.
It's really stretching the boundaries of physics into metaphysics.
Or suggesting the boundary isn't as clear-cut as we thought.
Okay, expanding on this whole idea of subtle energies, we bump into another concept, even more speculative perhaps, but really compelling in this context. Torsion fields.
Ah, yes, Torsion Fields.
A lot of the ideas we're touching on seem to revolve around this notion of subtle energy, which, let's be clear, traditional physics doesn't formally recognize in the same way esoteric traditions do.
That's correct. Conventional physics deals with measurable energies, electromagnetic, kinetic, gravitational, and nuclear forces.
Yeah.
Subtle energy, in metaphysical terms, is more refined, less tangible.
Like prana, chi, ki.
Yeah, exactly. Prana in Hinduism, chi in Chinese medicine, ki in Reiki, etheric energy in Theosophy. Different names, but a similar concept of a vital life force or underlying energy field.
Has science made any attempts to actually look for this stuff? Or things like it?
Well, there's research into the biofield, which the NIH even has a definition for a massless field thought to surround and permeate living bodies, and studies on biophoton emissions.
Tiny light emissions from organisms?
Exactly, ultra-weak light. These hinted energy exchanges we don't fully understand. Some researchers speculate connections to quantum field fluctuations, zero-point energy, or even bigger mysteries like dark energy and dark matter.
So the door isn't completely closed scientifically, just not fully opened yet.
You could say that.
Yeah.
Which brings us to torsion fields, which sit right on that edge.
Okay, so what exactly are torsion fields theoretically?
They come out of theoretical physics, primarily fringe science at this point. They're hypothesized to be generated not by charge or mass, but by the spin or angular momentum of particles.
Spin, like a spinning top.
Analogously, yes, quantum spin. And unlike gravity or electromagnetism, which radiate outwards, torsion fields are thought to be longitudinal. They might propagate information along their axis of spin.
Where did this idea come from?
Its roots are in things like the Einstein-Cartan theory, which is an extension of general relativity. It allows for space-time to not just curve, but also to twist due to particle spin. But crucially, they aren't widely accepted in mainstream physics.
Okay, so they're controversial. Why are they so interesting for this deep dive then? What's the hook?
The hook is what proponents claim they might do. They suggest torsion fields could allow for instantaneous information transfer over vast distances.
Like entanglement, but maybe on a bigger scale.
Potentially, yes. Perhaps even macroscopic. And this is where it connects to our themes. They've been linked, controversially, to things like telepathy, remote viewing, maybe even advanced energy tech.
And the biggest claim?
The most provocative hypothesis is that they might interact directly with consciousness, that thoughts or intentions could generate these fields and subtly influence physical reality.
Mind influencing matter via spin fields.
That's the idea. But the major challenge is the lack of solid empirical evidence. They're incredibly difficult to detect if they exist as described with current technology. That's why it remains largely fringe.
That's fascinating, but like you said, very speculative. So how should we think about these connections, especially regarding consciousness? Are we talking proof or possibilities?
Definitely possibilities and conceptual parallels, not proven mechanisms. We're exploring the implications if these ideas hold water. For consciousness, the hypothesis is that torsion fields could be a missing link.
A physical mechanism for mind-matter interaction.
Potentially. The spin of particles in our brains generating these fields influencing the environment non-locally. Some even speculate consciousness isn't just using these fields, but might be an emergent property of them at the quantum level.
Which would naturally lead to explanations for things like telepathy or psychokinesis?
Theoretically, yes. If thoughts generate torsion fields, and these fields can carry information non-locally, that provides a framework, however speculative, for telepathy. If they can influence matter, that points towards psychokinesis.
So our sources mentioned integrating all this into a kind of grand unified theory, the HHHCR-TOE.
Yes, that's one proposed framework aiming to do just that, to integrate subtle energies, consciousness, higher dimensions into a comprehensive theory of everything. It's incredibly ambitious, trying to bridge physics and metaphysics.
And in that model, consciousness wouldn't just be a side effect of biology.
No, it would be treated as a fundamental field, actively interacting with physical fields and these proposed subtle energy fields.
And concepts like the observer effect.
The model suggests that something called coherence fields related to subtle energy could mediate the observer effect. Conscious intention actively shapes reality through these fields. It offers a potential mechanism for manifestation, for how our thoughts might have tangible effects.
And things like subtle bodies, chakras.
The TOE could model subtle bodies, etheric, astral, as extensions of these coherence fields influencing our biology. Chakras could be seen as nodes or converters, where subtle energy translates into physiological and psychological effects.
And the Akashic records fit in how?
They could be represented as a kind of universal quantum information field, where data from all these coherence fields across space-time is stored and potentially accessed, information transcending space and time.
Wow. So it really paints a picture of reality, not just as, dead matter and forces, but as a living, dynamic system.
Exactly. Influenced by both material forces and consciousness, with potentially deeper layers of coherence operating within a multidimensional space. It's a radical shift in perspective.
What a journey we've taken today. Really, from ancient theosophical planes, these layers of existence.
All the way to quantum entanglement, which is just bizarre and wonderful.
And into the really speculative but intriguing world of torsion fields. It really does seem clear that the universe might be far more interconnected, far more responsive than maybe traditional views let on.
It's a compelling narrative, isn't it? This deep dive shows how concepts from these mystical traditions, universal interconnectedness, consciousness shaping reality, they find these fascinating echoes, maybe even theoretical footholds, at the frontiers of modern physics.
It definitely invites us to consider that our understanding of reality could be, well, profoundly enriched if we combine empirical findings with these deeper, maybe more intuitive spiritual insights.
It suggests a more holistic approach might be needed.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? It raises a really provocative thought, I think.
Which is?
If our consciousness truly interacts with the fabric of reality at some fundamental level, as these parallels seem to suggest, what possibilities does that open up for our own lives, for our collective future?
Yeah, that's definitely something to ponder.
Something to think about as you navigate your own reality, maybe now with the slightly different sense of its hidden depths and connections.